Matthew's town, and thanks very much for joining us. Now, hunger strikers and their supporters are camping outside the American Embassy in London to draw attention to a problem they feel the world has largely ignored, though Dr. Rowan Williams met 3 of them this week. 12 men and women have pledged to starve themselves to death if the coalition forces in Iraq do nothing to protect the 3,500 Iranian dissidents housed in Camp Ashraf, some 60 kilometers northeast of Baghdad in Iraq. The camp has been the Iranian dissidents' home for some 20 years now, but events in July suggest that the Iraqi authorities want them to return to Iran. Trevor Barnes reports.
The protest here outside the American Embassy in central London is quiet and dignified. In fact, it looks more like a field hospital than a demonstration, with 12 desperately weak protesters lying on a row of camp beds behind me, tended by a nurse. 45-year-old Fatima and 44-year-old Khalil, who have relatives in Camp Ashraf, are among them. They've gone without food for 53 days and are prepared to take their protest to the bitter end.
Well, for the last 2 days, I've got very huge pain in my side. And last Sunday, I was in a hospital and I had bleeding stomach and I was vomiting blood. And it's quite difficult, but my belief is stronger than my pain.
I'm so weak. I can go for maybe 20-30 meters, but after that I start to become dizzy and somebody all the time has to be with me. I don't want to die. I've got 2 small children. I love them. They are in the school right now. I don't want to die, but what else can I do? They're protesting against this. The attack on unarmed civilians by Iraqi security forces as American troops under orders not to intervene watched events but were powerless to stop the bloodshed. An extract from footage secretly filmed by refugees at Camp Ashraf in July. London-based solicitor Masood Zabiti.
The weapons they were carrying included axes, sickles, obviously arms with live ammunition, planks of wood with nails embedded into them, and they literally went in there and beat these people with planks of wood and with everything else, resulting in 11 people being killed, more than 400 being wounded, 42 of them very seriously, and 36 who were beaten were forcibly removed from Ashraf and, according to Amnesty International, have been harmed and tortured whilst in detention in Iraq. And what's really horrific is that there are 1,000 women in Ashraf who were again beaten during these violent attacks, and they've also been threatened with sexual assault and rape.
The 3,500 people in the camp belong to the People's Mujahideen of Iran, the PMOI, a dissident Iranian political group which until 2001, when it surrendered its weapons to the Americans, was committed to the armed overthrow of the Tehran government. Prescribed by the United States and officially dubbed a terrorist organization by Britain and the EU until 2007, it's now had its terrorist status revoked, and according to the Liberal Democrat peer, Lord Carlisle, represents a legitimate form of political opposition. They are, in a sense, a form of government in exile, and they run political campaigns led by their leader, Mrs. Rajavi, who lives near Paris. Well, they may not be committed to the armed struggle now, but until 2001, they were. We're not talking about the Quakers here, are we? We're talking about a determined group who decided that the armed struggle was not the way forward to change the regime in Iran, and so they have turned themselves from an organization which used to do things terroristically to an organization that now does things politically, and I think one should not criticize them for the past, one should commend them for the present. The transfer of security from US to Iraqi forces earlier this year puts the onus of ensuring the safety and protection of Camp Ashraf's 3,500 refugees with the Iraqis themselves under the terms of the 4th Geneva Convention. Masood Zabiti says DVD footage of the raid and eyewitness testimonies show that the Iraqis are not only flouting the convention but actively contributing to the bloodshed, and he isn't alone in fearing worse to come.
The Iranian regime has not stopped putting pressure on the Iraqi government, and they want the Iraqi government to finish the job, which means either kill these 3,500 people, expel them to Iran, where they'll be tortured and killed, and basically destroy the camp, which is exactly what the Iraqis tried to do. The international community has an obligation to interfere here. It is very possible that we could see further attacks, and if there are further attacks, that would amount to a crime against humanity.
The protesters have two main demands before they're willing to call off their hunger strike. First, that the 36 hostages be returned unharmed, and secondly, that the Americans temporarily take over security at Ashraf prior to the installation of a UN protection force, guaranteeing the refugees security. But with only 10 days to go before the internal organs of some of the hunger strikers suffer irreversible damage, the opportunity for a relatively pain-free resolution is receding fast. Lord Carlisle, one of their supporters, is appealing for a compromise.
I would encourage the hunger strikers to end their hunger strike and to take part actively in the political campaigning. The hunger strikers know that they have most of the political and religious establishment on their side, and so I would suggest that the hunger strike has at the very least served its purpose and should now come to an end.
But even the religious establishment's leading figure, the Archbishop of Canterbury, who met three of the hunger strikers this week in Oxford, emerged with no guarantee from them that their fast would end. The Bishop of Oxford, John Pritchard, who helped arrange the meeting.
The Archbishop was able to make a number of hopes and promises. He is able to write a statement which can be used with the hunger strikers in order for the Archbishop to stand in solidarity with them. He's able to use, of course, our own links in the church in the Middle East, and he's activating those, and he has his own diplomatic contacts, of course, at the Foreign Office. And so all of this was discussed. We don't know what's going to be possible, but the Archbishop is clearly making a commitment to it.
Asked what the American administration planned to do, a spokesman for the American embassy told Sunday, Camp Ashraf is a sovereign matter for the government of Iraq. The US has urged restraint on all sides, and the Iraqi government has stated publicly that the residents of Camp Ashraf will be treated in accordance with Iraqi's constitution, laws, and international obligations. Which means that for 19-year-old Manchester University student Sudabe Hidari, the ordeal continues.
I feel very weak. I have very bad headache, and my kidneys got a lot of problems, and my bones have a lot of pain.
Now, this week you spoke to the Archbishop of Canterbury,
Yes.
Rowan Williams. What did he say?
He was very worried. He told me, I will try to do something for your demand, then you can stop your hunger strike. He doesn't tell me stop now. I feel if I die, I will be a candle to make them open their eyes. It's not easy. Nobody don't like to harm themselves. But it is the only way for me.
Is there anything anybody could do though to persuade you to stop? To take some food and to get well?
I don't want food. I want Ashraf to say.
And shortly after Trevor Barnes conducted that interview, Sudabe Hidari was admitted to hospital when her condition dramatically worsened. And I should add that we approached the Foreign Office to see if they wished to comment on the situation of the dissidents, but they declined. And that's all for this edition of Sunday. If you'd like to comment on today's programme, and in particular on that report, you can email us at sunday@bbc.co.uk, or you can write to us at Sunday, New Broadcasting House, Oxford Road, Manchester, M61SJ. You can also listen again or download the programme as a podcast from the Radio 4 website. Well, it's just time to catch the last conkers falling off the trees and to pick the last of the blackberries. Have a lovely Sunday, and from me, Roger Bill, goodbye. Sunday was produced by Carmel Lonergan and Janet Wilson. Now Jenny Murray presents the Radio 4 appeal on behalf of the charity Elizabeth Finn Care. For more than 112 years, Elizabeth Finn Care